Hey everyone, my name is Ramon. I'm here with 501k, and today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about one of these little lessons that I've learned right through life, and it's called Learn to Love the Struggle. And what I mean by struggle, right, I'm talking about like sometimes when you get your first job, right, and it's a 9 to 5, right? And then depending on your age, that could be something different, right? If you're real young, that could be your first job working at McDonald's, or if it's your first job right out of college, it could be working at some company that's paying you less than what you think it's worth, and they don't treat you very well, and you're not very happy, and you don't really love it, right? It's not your ideal dream job. It's not what you pictured. It could be, if we're talking about just something physical, it could be, going to the gym and you're overweight and you're trying to get to your ideal weight. Or if you're starting a business, right? Like the beginning of it, sometimes not everyone has immediate success. Sometimes in the beginning, if you divide up your hours, if you divide up what you made by the number of hours you put into it on a weekly basis, you realize that you're probably only making a couple dollars an hour if you're doing if you're doing well, right? Sometimes it's less than that. Sometimes it's just a few cents per hour. So that's what I mean by the struggle, right? That's the grind. And what I'm trying to say is that I've learned to enjoy the struggle, to enjoy that grind. It's not easy. It's not easy. But if you can make that switch, if you can change your mindset, right, to enjoy that, it's worth it. It's worth it. You'll get so much more out of it. I think the first time that I learned that, or maybe not the first time, but the first time that it was just so meaningful to me. I mean, I was going through it, and in the process of going through the suck, right, going through the struggle, through the grind, through the pain, through the suffering, it dawned on me that this is a great opportunity, right? And that doesn't always happen. Usually it's years later, right, that you realize that was good. That was good for you. But the first time that happened to me, that I had that epiphany during the struggle, was just recently graduated from USC and was supposed to go work, this corporate job for what was considered back then, decent wage, right? In fact, it was probably one of the better wages at the time, right? If you were graduating with a bachelor's degree. And anyways, I decided to go become an entrepreneur. And I found a partner, and about halfway through the project, I realized that he was not the person I thought he was, right? He wanted to cut corners. He didn't want to work very much, right? He wasn't keeping his end of the bargain, and he didn't have the expertise that he said he had. At some point, the project became unprofitable. I mean, we were, it was probably around that halfway mark, and we realized, wait a minute, we were supposed to make off of this one little project, right? It's about $10,000. It was landscaping and some minor construction, right? Walkways and stuff like that, concrete walkways. And we thought we were going to make, a few $1,000s off of it. And it turns out, no, we're going to end up losing money. And I was fronting all the money. I was the one that found the deal, right? I went door knocking and found that deal. And he was supposed to do the rest of it, right? And that was his proposal, right? He was an experienced entrepreneur, and he presented that to me. I accepted that. And so anyways, halfway through the project, we couldn't agree on what to do. He wanted to leave the job, and I'm like, no. I'm playing an infinite game here. This is my reputation. This is my business. So I decided that I wanted to see the project through to the end. And he decided to just bail on me. He left me on my own. And 23 or so, right? I was 23. Yeah, I think I was 23. Didn't really know what I was doing, right? Because that was not my specialty. I didn't go to school to become a landscaper or a construction management guy, right? My degree was in accounting. So I had to roll up my sleeves, and even though I was losing money on the project and I was putting this on credit cards, and I knew I was going to lose money, right? By the time the project was done, I had to see the project through to the end. And it wasn't 1 or 2 days or 3 days. This was a project that went on for months. So after he left, I still had to work for free, right, without making any money. In fact, losing money every day on credit cards. I had to finish the project. It took me at least another month to finish the project, but I finished it. I learned some valuable lessons from that, which actually brings me to the advice that I'd like to share with you guys, right? So when you're going through those struggles, right, instead of just complaining, because that's easy, right? It's almost like a part of our DNA, right? All of us can complain, but it takes somebody with character, right, to not complain, to try to step back, right? And that would be the first piece of advice. Step back and then look, and say, well, what could I learn from this? Because it would be easy to say, well, next time I'll pick a partner who's, trustworthy, that knows what they're doing, and really point the finger, right? But the idea is, those are valid ideas for when you step back, right? Those are valid points, right, to come to, right? To say that next time I'll do this and I'll do that. But what you have to do is you have to blame yourself. You have to, instead of just saying that was a bad partner and it was his fault and he, this and that, go, well, I made a bad decision. I didn't vet him very well. I didn't sit down and ask him, well, show me some of the other projects you've done. When was the last project you completed? How much money was that one? How much money did you make on that one? Do you have any referrals, right? So the idea is to step back and see, well, what lessons could I learn from that specific struggle that I'm going through, right? So that would be the first thing. And it takes a moment, it's hard to do it. If you meditate, it's a lot easier, right? Because it's, if any of you guys that meditate, you know what I'm talking about. If you are able to just separate yourself from the emotions, it's so much easier. So anyway, step back, think, what can I learn from this, right? What can I improve? What can I do differently next time? Another thing that helps, another piece of advice when you're going through that is to, and this is more of, it's kind of almost like you're challenging yourself. You ask yourself, so what am I made of, right? Is this one little project here which didn't work out for whatever reason? Is this going to be it? This is going to, destroy me? This is what's going to get me to tuck tail and run and decide that I don't want to be an entrepreneur anymore, and, I'm done and I'm going to go work a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life, and maybe someday somehow I'll retire when I'm, 75 or 80, or what are you made of? I mean, everybody talks a good game, right? A lot of people talk a good game, but it's like, when things get tough, I mean, you got to ask yourself, what am I made of? Is this going to be my downfall? Is this one experience that I'm going through right now, whatever it is, right? Is this going to be my crutch for the rest of my life? Are you going to tell your children and your grandchildren, I could have been this, I could have been that, but then I had this one experience with some guy who, didn't do his numbers right and didn't know how to, how to run his numbers, and didn't have as much experience as I thought, right, in construction and landscaping. Is that going to be your crutch? Is that going to be the excuse you're going to use? Is that going to make you happy, 40 or 50 years from now, right? And there's people like that, right? I'm sure you know some like that. We all know people like that you talk to them and they got these poor me stories, right? I could have done this, I could have done that, right? Now, I'm not talking about legitimate things, right, that stop people from accomplishing their dreams, right? There's people that were great basketball players or great football players, and they broke an ankle or they tore a muscle that kept them from recovering and being able to make it, right? That's different, right? And even some of those people may have been able to come back from those injuries. But I'm referring to just more situations that are just tough, right? And I guess my mindset right now when I'm talking about this is more I'm thinking more business, right? I'm thinking world of entrepreneurship, right? It's never easy, and there's always struggles, and there's always things that go wrong. But when they do go wrong, is that going to be what's going to hold you back? I mean, so just ask yourself that question. And I think the third piece of advice, right, that I would say is when you're going through those struggles, when you're going through those situations, another thing that's helped me at least, right, is to think, well, what's the alternative, right? So let's say let's go back to my example, right? So I, straight out of college, supposed to get a job with a prestigious accounting firm, right? Worked hard to get that. And I shot that down. I turned that down to become an entrepreneur. And my first big job, right, this happens. I mean, what's the alternative? Am I going to go? I can't go back to that accounting firm, right? They're not going to take me. So what am I going to go do? And no shots, right? I'm not meaning to be disrespectful against accountants, but that's not what I wanted to do, right? And that would be my alternative, go become an accountant. And that's not what I wanted to do. And just the thought of having to do that for the rest of my life was not an option. It's just not, And whenever I've had businesses throughout my life and they go bad, right? And I'm going through those struggles, I'll ask myself that question. Am I prepared to just give up? Just give up on my dreams and decide to just go work a 9 to 5? And it's not something I'm willing to do. So, and just the thought of that, right, is enough to push me through whatever adversity I'm going through and kind of make the best of it, right? Because it could be so much worse, right? I've had a 9 to 5 that I've absolutely disliked, and it was tough, and it was. And luckily I had that experience at a young age, right? While going to college, I worked 40 hours in a corporate setting, and I love the fact that I went through that experience, because whenever being an entrepreneur gets tough, I can always look back on that, and I can remember that being so much more miserable than anything else. So anyways, so just think, what's the alternative? And for most of you guys, the alternative is not wonderful. I mean, for some of you it might be. You might have a plan B that's palatable, right? That you can live with. But not everyone, right? Some people are just not cut for that. And the alternative, by the way, is not just, well, right, if you think of it this way, it's not just, well, I'll go work a part-time job for now and we'll see where things go. No, it's play it out. If you play it out, the alternative is you quit on your dreams and your goals and being an entrepreneur, and it becomes a pattern in your character. And if you become a quitter, right, then that just follows you. And then essentially, all you can do, and maybe even that might not work out for you, is to go try to work in the corporate structure. And that may not work out for you, because you might decide to quit some of those jobs, because those get tough as well. So anyways, I hope you guys found this useful. I hope you guys found this useful, and look forward to seeing you guys at my next video. Thank you.